Ends at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll-free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And a good morning. Welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I have my deep voice on this morning. Oh, wow. Well, it only happens about once every 3 years, but I get that little chest thing. So I'm going to work my way through it today. Thanks for joining me. And we're going to have a great show. I've got some information about, oh gosh, this is really unbelievable. Wallet Hub, which is a company that collects data, determined that the most driver-friendly places in the U.S., the best cities for driving and the worst cities for driving. And I'll share that data with you a little bit later in the show, but I'll give you just a teaser. In Riverside, California has the lowest average parking rate of $1.43 for 2 hours, which is 19.2 times lower than in Buffalo, New York, where the highest, which is $27.44 parking for 2 hours. So I guess you just don't drive up there. If you do, it's cheaper to take an Uber or a cab for sure. Your call's coming up at 888 Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you this morning in part by O'Reilly Auto Parts, where they promise you'll get better parts, better prices every day. That's right. They have the parts you need to get the job done right. And also, their stores are stocked with high-quality parts and accessories at guaranteed low prices, and their friendly, well-trained professionals are standing by to help. See how 5 simple words drive everything they do. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
Need auto parts but can't get to a store right now? Head to O'ReillyAuto.com. Buy your parts online and pick them up in any of the 5,000 O'Reilly Auto Parts stores nationwide. No shipping cost, easy returns, and convenient pickup on your schedule. Shop your way at O'ReillyAuto.com. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Coolant leaks can be expensive, with repairs costing a few $1,000s or more. And these problems often hit vehicles late in life when they may be only worth a few $1,000s. There is an alternative. K-Seal is a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it. Good morning, Car Clinic listeners nationwide. It's that time of year again. I've been talking with you about your automobiles for over 26 years now, and I've been servicing vehicles here in my own automotive service shop for 46 years. We've won Best Automotive Service Shop, Best Oil Change, and Best Reputation in Automotive Service, and I'd be honored if you vote for my service shop again this year for Best of the Coast. Go to inweekly.net, look for Best of the Coast voting, click Services, scroll all the way to the bottom, then key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Best Oil Change. 4 simple steps. inweekly.net, Services, scroll to the bottom, key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Best Oil Change. One more time, inweekly.net, Services, scroll to the bottom, key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Best Oil Change. I appreciate your vote of confidence.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started. Let me give you the number early on. We also are going to be traveling to Kearney, Nebraska immediately, so I'm going to take you for a tour there, and we're going to talk to a couple of gentlemen that are, actually they're regulars on the program, although they're regulars about one time a year, but that's when their cruise night event is going on in Kearney, Nebraska. That's a small town in Nebraska, but it has a lot of automobiles, and we're going to be finding out from Jerry and from Jerry Erickson and Brad Kernick. So, but first, 888 Car Clinic. Hannah will take your calls, put you in a queue at 888-227-2546. Okay, let's get them on the line. Brad, or is it Jerry? Good morning. Welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning. Good morning.
Oh, I have
Bobby,
both of you.
Brad and Jerry's here too.
Oh, well, okay, let's get right into it. So an overview of the car club and the events going on as we speak in Kearney, Nebraska.
Well, thank you, Bobby. This is a wonderful series of events. It's sponsored by Central Nebraska Auto Club. This is our 31st year. We have expanded our menu to where it includes parts or all of 6 days and all kinds of automotive events. It's just a lot of fun.
Well, to that end, let's back up. when you had the first event, or when the first event was 31 years ago, how many cars and what economical impact would you say it had on Kearney versus today? And I see this year you've expanded it to 6 days. Why did you do that?
Well, you know, when we first started, and Jerry and I weren't involved at that time, but it was a one-day car show and then a dance that evening, and that was it. And then they decided to grow it into 2 days, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5. This year we expanded it to 6. And I think we've been pretty doggone strategic on what we add. We think about it, we look at it, we talk about it, and so like this year as an example, we added an evening at Blueprint Engines. It's a factory here in Kearney where they make replacement performance engines for Chevrolet, Ford, and Mopar, and they have a new 150,000 square foot facility, and they were doing tours there, and it was just incredibly well attended, and it was just great. So we've done that. Another one that we strategically added, this has probably been 3 to 4 years ago, we were approached for the nursing and assisted living homes. Some of their activities directors had contacted us and said, you know what, many of our clients love old cars, but they're just not physically able to get out and see them. Would you guys consider coming by? And first of all, we said, well, we think so. Then second of all, we looked at our schedule, and it was totally full. And so we decided that we would, in fact, add another day, and that has become our regular Wednesday evening activity. We go by 13 nursing or assisted living homes and also some parks where people sit up in lawn chairs to see us. This year we had one of my friends had a counter, and he counted that we had 207 cars that actually took part in that little tour of homes, and then the amount of people that were out just to see us, in addition to the people from the nursing and assisted living homes, was just off the charts great. And we even had a small busload from the veterans home that's about 45 minutes away from us, and they came to see us this year. So it's been just a lot of fun, Bobby.
Well, to that end, you know, can you just imagine that you're in a home like that and you're limited, obviously physically limited with far as your mobility, but to see an automobile that, gosh, no, we know that so many of those folks in those homes had cars like they saw. Give us an overview of maybe the oldest and the wildest, and you know, paint a picture for us with regard to what types of cars are at the event this year, Brad.
Well, you know, and that's kind of one of the cool things about it, Bobby, is we do not discriminate at all. So we've got Model A's here, and we've got brand new Corvettes. I noticed a brand new Viper that came all the way from Colorado. It's beautiful. And then we've got everything in between, 55, 56, 57 Chevys, street rods. We've got a lot of Mopars here. We have an NHRA drag strip on the east end of town, and we've probably got about a dozen cars that'll be competing in that. We've got a top fuel funny car that's here. We've got an alcohol funny car here. We've got Pete's Patriot, a vintage super stalker that resides at the Classic Car Collection now. And then we've got a lot of other race cars here, along with some beautiful Mopars. Some of them have 426 Hemis in them. Just a beautiful selection, and it's a nice, cool morning, and we couldn't have ordered better weather. So the cars are great, the people are great, the weather's great. We've got an incredible food court here. I think people are just going to have an incredible day.
So you've got about, what, 600 cars there? How do you park those cars? And I think that's an interesting picture that folks need to know, because, as I understood, the city council asked for some easement with regard to emergency vehicles, and so you had to move the cars aside. Tell us how that went about.
Well, and actually, Jerry and one other person are in charge of the parking, and it seems to work with some hiccups, but by and large, the city gives us control of that downtown core area, and we will get 550 to 600 vehicles parked. Of course, we have that whole Central Avenue area. We have 3 cross streets that go with that, and then we have 3 parking lots. And we do have some segregation. The Corvettes all like to park together. As you heard me say, the Mopars like to park together. The drag race cars like to park together. With that many cars, we can't park all of them where they'd like to park, but Jerry and his crew just do an incredible job.
You know, Brad, you mentioned you had a top fuel car, which hits my hot button, and then even more hot is the alcohol-powered drag car. So what better place to have an alcohol drag car than in Kearney, Nebraska, where you have the Kappa Ethanol Corporation and all the and folks in Kearney, Nebraska, as I understand, the largest farmer-owned ethanol plant is right there, just out of Kearney, Nebraska, and there are a lot of people involved there. And the people that I know, I've been there, and it just brings back great memories. As I said, I can just imagine the folks in those homes looking at cars like, I used to have one of those, Brad. You know, you and I know, Brad and Jerry, that a lot of those folks had cars exactly like that. Maybe not updated like we have today, because when you see, folks, when you see a 55 Chevrolet or you see a Nomad, just because it looks original factory, there's hardly anything that's original underneath that chassis. But that's just part of building a car. You know that, Brad. So how many cars, Jerry, do you have now?
I've still got 4, Bobby. Right today, I'm driving my 57 retractable. I still have that 64 SS Impala that you rode in.
Yes.
I still have my Mustang, and then I sent you the papers on that 50 Ford pickup that I put a Hemi in. We talked about that one day. But I still have those 4, and then my family cars, of course. But those are my antique types.
How many members? I'm sorry, Jerry. How many members in the Central Nebraska Car Club?
I think there's about 100. I think there's about 100, and we probably got 95 of them on the street this morning.
And a couple of last questions. How far-reaching does this event, can you tout? I mean, or do you know as far as how far away did the person drive their car or bring their car from?
We don't give any awards like that, but last year we had 9 different states represented at this show, and we won't know until the end of the day today, Bobby,
right,
how many from where or how far they come from. But I talked to people from Colorado and Kansas both yesterday, and I've seen Colorado people here this morning.
Well,
we usually get Iowa, Missouri, and South Dakota, sometimes Michigan. We've been from Arizona. We have a lot of people come for this.
Well, gentlemen, I'll tell you, it's always a pleasure to have you on Bobby Likis Car Clinic, Kearney, Nebraska, KGFW. We've aired on that station, I don't know how many years, but it's in the teens, and it just brings a lot of pride to me, to our team, and hats off to the Central Nebraska Car Club, hats off to Kearney, and hats off to you, Brad and Jerry, for joining us. There's the hard break. Thank you so much, guys, for being with us today.
Thank you, Bobby. We appreciate your support and help. I look forward to listening to you every Saturday morning.
We recently sat down with Control's Global Brand Manager, Joe Meyer, to discuss the advantages of Agm Batteries. Joe touched on why many of today's vehicles are better suited for this technology. Let's hear from Joe.
Certain attributes that make your vehicle a good candidate for an Agm battery really depend on the electrical demands that are placed on the battery within your vehicle, as well as potentially the vehicle application, such as start-stop. Most vehicles manufactured in recent years actually contain more than 150 electrical accessories, including backup cameras, navigation systems, systems, even power windows, which, are part of our everyday lives. Our Agm batteries are manufactured to meet these electrical demands. Additionally, if you have something in your car, such as start-stop technology, you need an Agm battery to help ensure you are effectively powering your vehicle during this stop event.
Johnson Controls is the world's largest producer of automotive AGM batteries, which are precision engineered to meet the electrical demands we put on today's vehicles. Learn more at autobatteries.com. Berryman Products is celebrating their 100th anniversary, providing innovation to the automotive aftermarket, like their new Berryman engine oil flush, which quickly and safely removes harmful deposits in the crankcase for gasoline and diesel engines without the use of aggressive solvents. Berryman engine oil flush frees sticky valves and lifters for quieter operation, opens restricted oil passages to improve overall oil circulation, removes water for enhanced corrosion resistance, frees sticky piston rings for reduced oil consumption and blow-by. Learn more at BerrymanProducts.com.
What 100-year-old automotive company makes dozens of products to extend your vehicle's life and improve its performance?
Let me see.
Which company uses high-energy solvent technology, or HEST?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
What company introduced B12 Chem Tool over 40 years ago? Still the best fuel system cleaner on the market?
Oh, don't tell me it's
Berryman Automotive Products. Correct. Berryman Automotive Products has lubricants, cleaners, solvents, hundreds of solutions, and every product all American-made since 1918. You'll find Berryman Automotive Products at AutoZone, Pep Boys, and Walmart. Now, why would you buy anything else?
Yeah, you sure ask a lot of questions.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher at 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to today's broadcast, folks. Gosh, that was that segment was dedicated to our friends and I have a plaque that I'm holding up, the Central Nebraska Auto Club. For those of you that are on Watch Bobby Live, it's a nice. A lot of times you get a license plate that just stamps steel, but this one is cast aluminum and then machined on the back side. And it really is really neat, and it has raised letters, Central Nebraska Auto Club there. Oh, and wouldn't you know, on the back of this is a picture of our friend Ethan Kinney. And Paul Kinney is the president of Kappa Ethanol, and his son Ethan is a very accomplished young man in the last 4 or 5 or 6 years. But here's a picture of his car. I don't know if you can see this. Maybe Jonathan might come in and hold this closer to the camera. But it looks like I guess it's a Grand National Buick or something of that nature. I know one thing. It's a little 2-door race car that has, it must have, maybe that's wrapped. There you go, Jonathan. Hold that up near the camera so they can see. The roll cage there looks like it's made out of 4-inch pipe, but I think that's just insulation around the pipe. Ethan Kinney. That, of course, is not a stock automobile. That's a race car. And so when you see, folks, when you see cars that tracks like that, thank you, Jonathan. You can just lay it on my table there. That was one of my gifts that I was given. And also, when we had Brad Karnick and Jerry Erickson on talking about this live event that's going on there in Kearney today, they mentioned Blueprint Engines. And the owner of Blueprint Engines is Norris Marshall, our good friend. And, you know, that company started, they were building, I don't know, 30 engines a day. And now I don't know how many thousands of engines they build a year, but quality engines. And then they went from the standard reman engine to Blueprint engines. And there's a lot of difference between building an engine and blueprinting an engine. And I'll give you an example. Years ago, I traveled to Sebring, Florida for the 12-hour Sebring race every year. It was just a phenomenal event. And there was a company in California called Andial, A-N-D-I-A-L. And Andial was founded by 3 individual German fellows. And the A-N was for Anwer, and then the D-I was from Dieter Inzenhofer, my friend, and A-L was for Alwyn. So you had 3 different German fellows, and what they were doing, according to Porsche, was sacrilege. Now, they built engines for Porsches that ran the 12 hours enduro, and they were fast cars. When I say sacrilege, because Porsche would ship crate motors, and these are brand new, high performance, buttoned up, ready to go, ready to plug in race engines from Porsche. And they would ship them to Andial, and Andial would take them apart and modify them. And then make them faster. And so when you think about the German technology and the mindset, and then you think about Anwer and his 2 partners, the Andial, modifying those engines. And then recently, and that's been in the 80s, recently Andial was sold to a Porsche connection. I'm not sure exactly what. Maybe we can look online there, and Jonathan can see who bought Andial. But the fact is, you've got the Mercedes AMG, which is a portion and connection and a company owned by Mercedes. So when you buy a new Mercedes, you can buy a Mercedes AMG, and that engine too has been pulled out, or maybe never put in, until it was modified and hand built. And when you think about that, you can say, well, do we have a counterpart? Do we have something like that in the States? And the answer is yes. You can actually go to the Corvette assembly plant if you're buying a Corvette, and you can, pardon me, my voice is a little hoarse this morning, and you can play a part in building your engine and putting it together. I think that's really cool, right? With GM. So I don't know how many manufacturers allow you to come into their plant and actually be hands-on. Now, obviously, they're going to watch everything you do, as well they should. But in a clean environment, in a hospital room, we call that in my business, and I've always wanted to build one. I do have a room like this when I built rear engine dragster engines, with a white room, and it's called a white room because the only thing that goes in that room is clean. Nothing goes in that room that is not pre-washed and pre-cleaned and dried, because that is an assembly. It's an OR. For all intents and purposes, that's what a white room is, an OR. And I've actually considered, and may do this, before I, decide not to do it, but I may just build a white room right here in our repair facility. And a white room would be used, of course, our guys would love it, because, especially Johnny Bars, because he's the master ASE certified tech in all 8 categories plus, even more, to get his doctorate, you might say, in automotive service and repair. But a white room would be an air-conditioned room. Imagine this. It would be an air-conditioned room made of glass, all glass. Of course, the exhaust would be pumped out, and the air conditioning pumped in, and in that room would be nothing but sophisticated electronic machines and testing machines like Pico, and you can look that up for yourself. I won't go into all that, but it would be the latest and the greatest of electronics, and then that room would be used in today's automotive repair facility to perform tests. And so if you got a check engine light, well, where best would you take it? To our white room. And that white room would not be a repair room. No, you don't take anything apart in that room. You don't perform operations. Now, obviously, that's not 100% accurate, because we would still have to take wires apart and modules out to make sure that those modules are okay or not, and check wiring. But as far as the repairs go, in other words, if you had a check engine light and it turned out to be an evap system, which is a system where you may have to drop the tank or something, then that car would be moved out of the white room, and it would be put into a stall, and maybe we could have a gray stall, which would be just under the white room. I never thought that far, but I did think about the white room, and I've always wanted to do that. In fact, I see that a white room could be manufactured like like what's the name of the Fabio on the corner up here? Is it Church's Chicken? Is that what that is? Yeah, and Church's Chicken, Checkers. Okay, yeah, Checkers. So Checkers manufactures their facilities, and those I don't know if you've ever seen this, but they're shipped to cities on a flatbed. And then they pour the foundation and they put those boxes in, and that's what they are. They're just flatbedded to the cities. And to that end, our studio here was manufactured by Acoustic Systems, and it arrived in pieces, of course, but in slabs, in two semis, 22,000 pounds. The floor weighs 10,000 pounds, and it was shipped here, and then we assembled it. And so it is an all-digital acoustic system. So like that, you could build something like a white room and use glass or something similar, but you would definitely want it to be all white on the inside, and then maybe a checkerboard floor, and then have pegboard in one area so that you could house all of the sophisticated tools and what have you. Now, the reason that this is important is because although it would be a significant investment to get it started to build the first one, it can be duplicated, and then shops across the nation, independent shops across the nation, could have the opportunity to buy a white room. Because make no mistake about it, folks, in the automotive repair and service industry, every shop has one individual who has more experience, more can-do, will-do, let's say, and more experience than other technicians. I mean, that's just the way it is, because you have to put the time in, and you have to perform these operations on automobiles over a period of years before you are seasoned and before you really understand all of the nuances of repairing an automobile. And I'll give an example. A car comes in for, it's hard to start. I mean, hard to start, not crank. Crank is, and start means to light off. So you go, and finally the owner gets it to start and brings it to the shop. And in this particular case, we put a cam sensor, because our machines, our scope showed the cam sensor wasn't giving the signal to the computer correctly. So the car didn't light off correctly. So we put a new cam sensor. Well, lo and behold, fast forward, that vehicle had, and the cam sensor was mounted on the cam cover. The cam cover, of course, it was mounted on the outside of the cam cover, and then it had a finger that stuck down into the engine adjacent to the cam shaft, and the camshaft had its timing gear, and on that gear it had the little windows, 360-degree window, and so that the computer knows exactly where that camshaft is. And if you know where a part is on an engine that's timed, then you can time the whole engine, because an engine, whether it's a 3-cylinder, 2-cylinder, a 4-cylinder, a 8, or a 16 like a Veyron, those engines are all single cylinders that are connected to a common crankshaft. So when a computer, it's really cool. Don't let me get too technical on you, but it's really cool when you think about a computer running an engine. The computer's only running one engine. It just so happens that there's 7 other engines on there, 7 other cylinders as well. When I said one engine, what I meant was one cylinder. And so in a V8, you've got 7 other cylinders. But if you know the position of one, and you know the air-fuel ratio of one, you know the air-fuel ratio of all. And specifically, computers are so darn cool that they can adjust the ignition timing individually as the car's going down the road. So cylinder 1 that fires, let's say if it fired 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it doesn't, but if they go 1, 2, then cylinder 1 could be firing 10 degrees before top dead center, cylinder 2 could be 30 degrees before, and then cylinder 3 could be 12 degrees after, just depending on the load of the engine. How marvelous it is, and how better it would be to have for each individual shop across the nation with their individual star technicians, with even dealerships, to have a white room so that when you took your car in, that car wasn't mixed and mingled with the rest of the water pump jobs and brake jobs and what have you, but specifically for the purpose of testing why that check engine light came on. Great efficiency and great pinpoint accuracy. When I come back, I'll take your calls at 888 Car Clinic.
We recently sat down with Johnson Controls Global Brand Manager Joe Meyer to discuss the advantages of AGM batteries, and Joe touched on how vehicles have changed through the years and why this makes batteries with absorbed glass mat, or AGM technology, a smart choice. Let's hear from Joe.
One significant trend we see in today's vehicles are the increased electrical demands that are placed on that vehicle. So these range from features that improve the vehicle's emissions, such as start-stop vehicle applications, to comfort, convenience, and other safety features. An AGM battery is best suited to ensure that the needs of these different features are met. So if you think about it, 20 years ago, we did not have vehicles that drove autonomously or included heated seats or GPS systems or extensive infotainment systems. Our cars really have become our second home. So an AGM battery is really the best suited to ensure that your second home is working properly.
AGM batteries help meet the electrical demands put on today's cars, and Johnson Controls is the world's largest producer of automotive AGM batteries. Learn more at autobatteries.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Good morning, Car Clinic listeners nationwide. It's that time of year again. I've been talking with you about your automobiles for over 26 years now, and I've been servicing vehicles here in my own automotive service shop for 46 years. We've won Best Automotive Service Shop, Best Oil Change, and Best Reputation in Automotive Service, and I'd be honored if you vote for my service shop again this year for Best of the Coast. Go to inweekly.net, look for Best of the Coast voting, click Services, scroll all the way to the bottom, then key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Best Oil Change. 4 simple steps. inweekly.net, Services, scroll to the bottom, key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Best Oil Change. One more time, inweekly.net, Services, scroll to the bottom, key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Best Oil Change. I appreciate your vote of confidence.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Hey folks, welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I have a question from Joseph Whitfield on Watch Bobby Live with regard to he'd like to switch to LED headlights and would like my recommendation. This is in regard to a 2011 Cadillac SRX. And his question is, do I have any recommendations with regard to switching over to LED headlights? And my recommendation would go to would be for you, Joe, to go to enjoythedrive.com. Again, that's a consumer site. You've heard me, and we all know about SEMA, Specialty Equipment Manufacturer Association, and for 20 years I traveled to SEMA, the largest. It really is not a car show, but it is, because it's how you can trick out cars and what have you, and all the manufacturers. I mean, I'm talking OEMs, Ford, Chrysler, Mercedes, you name it. All the manufacturers are there, and also all the aftermarket companies are there. In fact, the manufacturers sort of invaded SEMA because they saw an opportunity to show theirs and show their cars off at SEMA and get feedback from aftermarket and see how they could improve the new cars that we buy. So make no mistake about it, the OEMs, think about this. How many cars 15 years ago came from the factory with an option of aluminum wheels? I mean, that was always the aftermarket. That was always aftermarket. Well, no longer. Now, you know, when you buy a new car, you build it online, and depending on, you know, how deep your pocket is, you can choose $5,000 wheels if you so decide. So that's a sharing of information, but we are the recipient of all that great communication between the SEMA. Now, getting back to the SRX with the LED headlights, Joe, go to not the SEMA site, but the consumer, because SEMA is a trade association. Go to their consumer site, which is enjoythedrive.com, enjoythedrive.com. And on that site, every manufacturer of every automotive aftermarket that wants to be, or that claims to be, is going to be on that site. So you could find out, you could say, okay, I want to upgrade to LED headlight or LED headlight kits. And you probably have 15 companies that provide those, and then you can weed through your and choose your own. And also there are Q&As there are videos. I mean, there's it's a lot of information. We'll take a call from New York, and then I'll take your call. Hannah will put you in a queue, and I will put you on the air. Here's a number. It's 888 Car Clinic, but that number is 288-227-2546. Sam, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Thank you, Mr. Likis. Love your show.
Thanks
for taking my call.
My pleasure, sir. What can I do for
I
you?
ran into a situation yesterday. It'd be a very easy answer for you, probably.
Okay.
I was looking to purchase from an individual some alloy wheels for a 2008 Nissan Sentra.
Okay.
And the last change was done by Goodyear. And it looks like maybe they have over-tightened the studs. And this gentleman had a tremendous time getting the wheel off. Long story short, he had to use a 4-pound knuckle buster, turn the wheel, put it in neutral, banged on it, turned it, banged on it, turned it, finally got it off. And it looks like what happened, Bobby, is that steel wheel, OEM steel wheel, had rusted to the whatever that is, wheel bearing or whatever. My question to you, Bobby, is there made a thin plastic type shim or something that one might put on to prevent that? Because had I been on the road, I would have never gotten that off. I would have had to call AAA or somebody.
You know, Sam, that's a great question. And so as you were talking, I was thinking, and the first thing I thought about was a Teflon, nothing more than a Teflon paper thin, and it would be like 10 mil is all you would need.
Right.
Maybe 20 mil. So the answer is no. But here's an easier solution. And yet I think, wouldn't it be neat? I think every aluminum wheel sold should come with a Teflon washer or a Teflon insulator like you're talking about. The challenge there is if you put a cushion on there and you tighten the wheel, would you not have to, just for safety's sake, go back and retorque that wheel, because whatever you have as an insulator between the two will give a little bit. So anyway, that's the liability side. So that would be the only thing that I would say be against having a shim. There again, you can make the shim so thin that it did its job. Now, here's something that would even work, maybe even better. Now that you got the wheel off, and you are lucky, you are right that it was in a shop, and now that you got the wheel off, you take a wire brush, attached to a drill, and you clean the cast iron mounting hub off, and then you do the same thing on the aluminum wheel, but you don't dig into the aluminum. You want to be careful not to create a place for rust to grab. When you paint a house, you want to sandblast the house, or at least scrape the old paint off, and you do want to with a car. But with like a intake system, we talk about using cleaner on cooling systems. If you use a cleaner that etches the aluminum, a cleaner that's really, really powerful, that will etch the aluminum, and then it will be easier for future crustaceans and things to form. Anyway, having said that, what we do is we take I mentioned Johnny Bars a lot on the program. He has this little miracle grease. Actually, it's called Sil Glide, and it's used to lubricate brake calipers. And it's a heavy viscosity, looks kind of like petroleum jelly, except it's much heavier than that. Well, a little heavier than that. And you could literally smear a thin coat onto the surface, either the aluminum surface or the cast iron surface. Not so much that when it turned it would sling out, but even so, it wouldn't hurt anything if it did. Then you would not have that problem. And then on the lugs, I'll tell you, I curbed a wheel on my car that hurt when it was 18 months old, and I took the front wheels off and I sent that wheel off. Well, I took the right front wheel off because that's the one that I curbed. And when I did, the lugs of my 18 young old car, I mean really 18 months, the lugs were corroded. I was really, and so I got the manufacturer to give me another set of lugs, but in the meantime, I buffed the lugs until they could come in. I buffed the lugs that I had, and I put a light film of that Sil Glide. And when the new lugs came in, they warranted them. When they came in, I took the ones off that I had treated. They looked exactly the day that I treated them. So had the manufacturer, and don't ask me how these lugs were corroded. I mean, that made no sense. And it was on the front wheels, and the rears didn't. And granted, I washed my car thoroughly, including the wheels and what have you, but I didn't use anything other than tire cleaner or wheel cleaner. So anyway, back to your challenge getting that wheel off. Yeah, just a slight thin coat of grease or Sil Glide, and you can buy that O'Reilly Auto Parts. They sell it we buy it by the 6-pack, and because we use it. And I'll tell you something, Sam. That lubricant is so good, and it's for calipers, but it's so good that I use it on electrical contacts. You know, when I plug in, let's say I'm repairing something, or the other day on our little smart car, the printed circuit board was bad, and so we got another printed circuit board for the brake lights, and that's a common problem with the smart car. The tail lights go out. Really, they don't give much problems except for that. And so I will take the bulb, and I will just press the bulb like you do like dip and chip. I'll press the bulb into the little lubricant and then put it in place. And of course, they make the special lubricant for that, but the Sil Glide is a universal lubricant. I've never, ever had any issues with problems when I use that product. So that's what I would recommend for you. Anyway, any questions?
I really appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad you called because here's the net of this story, folks. Sam was able to get that wheel off, but had you, like you said, had you been on the highway, what if it had been raining on the highway 10 o'clock at night? I mean, think about that. I mean, that's like the kiss of death. You just don't want to go there, and so. And I'll tell you something else, Sam, makes me wonder how long that wheel had been on there, and had those wheels been rotated every 5,000 miles, that would not have happened.
Right.
Yeah,
True.
yeah.
True.
But it's life, They're on there for years, Hey, thank you so much for your call. Always love to hear from New York.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So, folks, I want to share with you about a part, and it's NGK parts, and NGK spark plugs. By the way, NGK spark plugs, USA Inc., is the largest OE supplier and manufacturer of spark plugs, oxygen sensors, and air fuel sensors for domestic and import vehicles in North America, with over 50 years of automotive expertise. And NGK's family of automotive products are driven by extreme dedication to innovation, performance, and quality. And folks, for decades, NGK application engineers in Wixom, Michigan, right here, not right here at the car clinic center of the automotive universe, but in Wixom, have collaborated with auto manufacturers to provide technologies fit for the vehicles of the future. So when you think of spark plugs and you think of coils and you think of sensors, you think NGK, although we know that NGK spark plugs are universally used in almost all car lines. When I think of NGK, I think that of ignition specialists, and so should you. For more information, check them out. Go to ngksparkplugs.com. We'll take a call from Jerry in New York, and then I want to share with you, before I get out of here for this hour, the best cities for driving and the worst cities for driving with regard to parking and gas, even auto repair shops per capita. But first, well, let's go back to New York and talk with Jerry. Jerry, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Connect. Thanks for calling.
Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, sir.
I would like to make a comment related to that last call.
By all means.
Up here in the North Country, where we've got lots of rust.
Yes, sir.
I'd recommend he use anti-seize. Brush it on the studs, brush it on the hub.
Hey, I'm with you, Jerry. I'm with you. Anti-seize is a great product. You would not want to use it on the threads. But here's a challenge with anti-seize, and I love that product, man. That product, a little bit of anti-seize, I mean, literally, like you put on the tip of your finger, will get all over you. I mean, you've used it for sure because you're promoting it, but anti-seize is certainly a thread lubricant. In fact, the new plugs. And I mentioned NGK, new plugs come with anti-seize already applied. And it's ironic that you should mention that product because you're right. If you want to make sure you can get something off, you put it together with anti-seize, and I guarantee you it'll come apart years and years from now. But also, if you've ever used anti-seize in a shop, a little bit goes a long way, and just after you finish with the car, you look down on the seat. Where'd that anti-seize come from? That stuff gets on everything, but it sure is great.
Especially on your fingers.
Yeah, exactly. What did you use it for?
I use it. I didn't know you weren't supposed to use it on wheel studs. I use it on wheel studs and spark plugs and all kinds of stuff. There's so much rust up here near Canada until anything that needs to come apart like that.
Well, I'm with you. Now, let me share a quick story with you. A friend of mine worked with a spark plug company. In fact, the spark plug company was Champion, and he was the, I think, chief engineer, and his job was to supply all of the race cars that were using Champion plugs with spark plugs. Now we're talking drag cars. We're talking Indianapolis cars and what have you. In fact, I still have what was at the time an under the radar, not publicly ready for prime time prototype spark plug for a Formula One car that was the size of, and I'm holding up a ballpoint pen, was the size of the cap of this ballpoint pen. And then it had no hex on the head. And it was made so that they could, with that pent roof design and 4 valves per cylinder on Indy cars, you don't have much room for the spark plug, but you got to have the plug. So it was designed ultra small so that it could fit down in the smallest of pockets. And then if you got a small hole, you can't get a socket over the spark plug because that means you got to have a bigger hole. So the socket was the same size as the plug, and the plug had a male-female, like tongue and grooves on the top. Anyway, I said all that to say this. The Indianapolis engine builders and mechanics and technicians, now these are really sharp people, would put anti-seize on the spark plugs, and darn if they didn't put too much on the spark plug, and it would affect the heat range of the plug because it is the plug's connection to the head and the length of the ceramic in the spark plug that determines the heat range. And when you put so much on there, then you actually do not have a metal-to-metal contact, and it would cause, now this is extreme conditions, but just to show you how technical just even using a little bit of anti-seize is. And so, if a little dab will do you, that's all you need. Hey, Jerry, got to go, out of time for this hour, but thank you so much for calling.
Thank you, Bobby. Enjoy your program.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And folks, another hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic coming up. I am going to share, you don't want to miss this, the best and the worst cities with regard to gas prices and traffic, stuck in traffic. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
When your battery goes dead, everything can come to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable, but how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And here we go again on the second hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Actually, it's so I woke up this morning with this kind of this deep voice on, and I've worked through that for the first hour or so. Now I'm ready to talk. Really? Really? You just now ready to talk? You could have never proven it by me if you'd tuned in the first hour. I'll invite you to participate. 888 Car Clinic. Hannah will take your call at 888-227-2546. Put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. I do have information that I want to share with you this hour. It's really some great news, and it's about the worst cities to drive in, the best cities to drive in. We'll take your calls as well. But I remind you, Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats and caps. You can learn more about the Motorrad products and the industry-leading application coverage at where? MotorradUSA.com. That's MotorradUSA.com. Also, I want to remind you that This program is sponsored in part and partnered with our sponsors of K-Seal, the one-step, permanent, multi-purpose system for coolant leak repair, including head gaskets, engine blocks, water pumps, and radiators. You can learn more at kseal.com. And you can also learn more by staying with me for this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. 888-227-2546. Your calls when I come back. Your vehicle a little sluggish? Try Berryman's B12 Chem Tool. Using HEST or high energy solvent technology, Berryman B12 Chem Tool dissolves gum, varnish, and carbon deposits in the fuel system to help restore lost power and peak performance. But don't take our word for it. According to Kevin M., Berryman products have proven to be a class act in maximizing performance, starting and saving on gas mileage. I've noticed a cruising speed, acceleration, and overall car performance. Learn more about Berryman products and their HEST technology at berrymanproducts.com.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable, but how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Good morning, Car Clinic listeners nationwide. It's that time of year again. I've been talking with you about your automobiles for over 26 years now, and I've been servicing vehicles here in my own automotive service shop for 46 years. We've won Best Automotive Service Shop, Best Oil Change, and Best Reputation in Automotive Service, and I'd be honored if you vote for my service shop again this year for Best of the Coast. Go to inweekly.net, look for Best of the Coast voting, click Services, scroll all the way to the bottom, then key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Best Oil Change. 4 simple steps. inweekly.net, Services, scroll to the bottom, key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Best Oil Change. One more time, inweekly.net, Services, scroll to the bottom, key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Best Oil Change. I appreciate your vote of confidence.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Hey, thanks for tuning in today. I do have this information, but with all due respect to our callers, that's where my goal is, to satisfy and to help our callers make better repair decisions and buying decisions, and just to share my knowledge universally across the globe. So I'm going to go first to our first caller, who was first up, John, and then your calls at 888 and Rocky next, but your calls at 888-227-2546. But I do not want to get by, Fabio. Don't let me get by without sharing this information about the worst cities to drive, because it's really some cool information. John, you're first in, so you're first up. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yes, I've been listening to you for a long time and everything. I've got a 2007 Saturn Ion 3.
Yep.
And I had trouble with my camshaft sensors and my crankshaft sensor, so I replaced that.
Mm-hmm.
They told me there was two, one on the top of the camshaft head, and the other one was on the crankshaft block. So I changed all that.
Okay.
And I'm still having trouble cranking it.
Well, the crank sensor is definitely must work.
because it is the crank sensor that lets the computer know the engine is turning over. But that's just one of many factors that are involved. I mean, if you could basically say that if you have compression in an engine and you have fuel in the engine and you turn it over and then you put spark in it, it should ignite the fuel and the compression and the engine should run. So what do you need? You need compression, fuel, air, and a spark. But with today's computer cars, there's a lot more going on than simply that. While that is the basics, the very basics, you still have to have the computer that fires the injectors. So you have to have the wires that go to each injector or to the throttle body, depending on the make and model year of the car and design. You still have to have the drivers in the computer that send the ground to each one of those injectors at the right time. You have to have a fuel pump and a pressure regulator that sustains pressure. I mean, because if you got low pressure, 10 pounds of PSI, that's just not gonna, the fuel won't go in for a lot of reasons. At least it won't go in adequately. So the bottom line, there's a lot of factors there. So let's back off of the technical aspects and let me ask you this question. How long has it been since this engine has run?
Ran the other day, it ran Monday.
Okay, and when you were, did it just quit while you were driving the vehicle?
Well, every once in a while, like in the mornings and during the day, it'll crank over and try to backfire is what it'll try to do, and then it'll crank up on about 34 hits.
Well, if an engine backfires, you know, with older era, in the older era, you'd say, well, it's out of time. In your case, you know, the timing is not a function of a distributor, but the bottom line, what you need to know is if you've got you could have a leaking injector that would flood the engine and turn the engine over, and it would have fuel in it, in a piston that wasn't supposed to have fuel, and that could ignite and that could backfire. Usually when something backfires, it is a timing issue, or it's a valve issue that where a valve is supposed to be closed and it's not, it's open. So, you know, John, you got to go back to basics. Number one, let me share this with you, and you probably already know this. Parts for Saturns are like gold.
Yes, sir.
They're hard to find. When we buy parts for Saturns, we have to pay for them before they're shipped because there's no return. And so I think it's important for you in your case to, number one, run a compression test on the engine so you know you got a healthy engine. And then I think that in the long run, you're going to be better off having a technician perform a few tests on this vehicle, because it is an 07. It does have the second generation OBD2 computer, so which means that you can, not you, and not a parts house, but a certified technician with a proper test gear can go into the architecture of the computer to check to see if the drivers are, to see if it's firing the injectors, to determine if the pressure is good. So those are things, but off the top of my head, you know, you've replaced a couple of parts. Well, where do you stop? I mean, you could even have a bad ignition coil that would be firing or misfiring and could give the same symptoms. So there are too many variables that, and I wish I could help you, but I'm helping you to understand the nature of today's car, which is yours, even though it's, you know, 10 years old, 11 years old, doesn't matter. It still has computer and compression and a fuel pump and all those things that we talk about. So my advice to you would be to at least spend an hour, have an agreement with the shop to invest 1 hour of their time and 1 hour of your money, whatever that time would be, for them to give you an overview of what they find wrong with the car. Now, that may or may not work if the car runs just perfect the day you take it in. So in the meantime, when you do get it running, and you're going to play with it after we hang up, I know, when you do get it running, try to determine how much fuel is in the vehicle when it doesn't start.
try to determine if it's cold or if it's really hot. You've already said it, a problem happens in the morning, but from what I read, you didn't say it happened every morning. So those are the kind of things that you need to be aware of and share all that information with the service desk when you go in, and also share the information that you've replaced. And one last thing before I let you go, John, just because you put sensors doesn't mean that the wiring connector where you plug the sensors in is healthy.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
See, you'd be surprised at how many cars that I've personally fixed in years gone by, especially with the earlier on halfway technology, the OBD1s and what have you, and you could spend all day and never really find the culprit. So what I did, rather than try to spend a whole day that you couldn't charge for, you couldn't get paid for, I would unplug every known ignition and every known fuel and every known injector wire and every sensor wire, look at it, treat it with a little anti-corrosive, at that time I used white lube, which is still good, and plug it together and unplug it. Plug it together so that you got a soupy connection there with a anti-corrosive factor. And lo and behold, the challenge was the problem would go away. The challenge was that maybe a year or two later the challenge would come back, but at least I got a car back on the road that didn't have a bad sensor, it just had a bad connector. Hey, thanks so much for your call, and I wish you good luck. We're going to go now to Rocky. Rocky, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thank you for holding.
Hey, Bobby, thanks for a great show.
Thank you, sir.
I got a question. I have a 2017 Ford T150 3.7. Did Ford perfectly design the computer in that thing? Because I cannot find from your advertiser or any other aftermarket, I cannot find a performance chip for it.
Well, yes, Ford did perfectly design the chip, as they did for all of the automobiles that are electronically controlled, under, and here's the caveat, Rocky, under the legal limits of the manufacturer. And the answer to your question is that you're not covered. Super Chips doesn't make a chip for the Transit. And it's not because they can't do it. It's because you're probably the first or second or third or 50th Transit customer that'd like to have one, but they just can't put the R&D and time in to make that vehicle specific. And here's what I mean by that. And I asked the Flashpack, who is the parent company of Super Chips, I asked that gentleman during a live interview on this show one day, I said, well, how is it that your companies can do things to cars that manufacturers can't do? That manufacturers, in other words, you've always heard, well, they invented a carburetor that would get 100 miles a gallon, which was never true, and the manufacturers or the oil companies bought it and threw it away or destroyed it. That's not the case at all. I said, but how can you take a known car and in 5 minutes, like a Super Chip, we talk about that, how can you take a known entity and increase the horsepower like 100 horsepower? And they said, well, we don't have to live by the same rules as manufacturers. Manufacturers have to universally make vehicle programming for all cars, for all states, for all emissions controls. So by legal law, they are relegated and they're restrained from delivering total horsepower of the engine, just like Rocky, just like RPM limiters. I mean, today's engines will go, my car is a stock passenger car, and literally factory stock, and it'll turn darn near 7,000 RPM. And if I could buy a kit, I could remove the rev limit and make it turn 7,500. But if a manufacturer did that, it could blow up. So anyway, it's all about marketing and all about the supply and demand and legal limits that are limited on manufacturers, and all about the hard brake. Don't go away, folks. I'll be back. This Engine Care Spotlight is brought to you by Walker Products, a leading manufacturer of quality fuel system components and engine management sensors. Many of today's diesel-powered vehicles are equipped with computer-controlled diesel emission systems that reduce soot and tailpipe emissions. These computers require accurate information from engine sensors. The exhaust gas temperature sensor, or EGT, relays the temperature of the diesel exhaust gases to the computer to properly control the exhaust gas after treatment system. This not only helps reduce harmful emissions, but also protects your vehicle. A faulty EGT sensor can have serious consequences. In addition to a dash warning light, you may experience a clogged diesel particulate filter, DPF, improper regeneration of the DPF, and overfueling, which can lead to failure of exhaust components or even internal engine damage. Walker Products offers OE quality sensors at aftermarket prices, and any skilled do-it-yourselfer can do the job. Learn more at walkerproducts.com. Talking tunes. No, not the ones on your radio. The ones that allow you to reprogram your vehicle's factory computer without even popping the hood. The result is more power, more torque, and a better overall driving experience. We recently sat down with Jim McGinn, Vice President of Marketing for Power Tech. Jim touched on another benefit associated with automotive tuning and efficiency. Let's hear how tuning your vehicle can lead to increased fuel economy.
Superchips tuning essentially increases your vehicle's timing. It allows the truck or the car or the SUV or Jeep to run in a higher gear, and it improves the process which we call atomization, which is essentially it turns bulk liquid into spray, and when you achieve this, you increase fuel pressure and you increase your fuel economy. So as a result, you can run the vehicle in a higher gear with advanced timing, and you get a more complete burn. We've done extensive road and dyno testing to validate these claims, and it really impacts the bottom line for the consumer with the Superchips Flashback.
Find your perfect tune at superchips.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip
from Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back, folks. I want to share with you information. You may have heard the conversation between Rocky and me before the break. Let me invite you to call to 888 Car Clinic. Hannah will take your calls at 888-227-2546. That's 227-2546 or 888 Car Clinic. And put you in the queue, and I'll put you on the air. So Rocky calls with a Transit, and no, Superchips, and Diablo Sport. Neither of those companies provide a kit for his application. Of course, they know how to do that because they're in that business. And to that end, the Diablo Sport, which is a tuner kit that I use on, in fact, our general manager and I installed it on his father's 2015 Ford EcoBoost, and fantastic results. But now Superchips has taken that, and Diablo Sport have taken their steps a little further. And let me share with you the latest from Diablo Sport. The Reaper kit is available with a Trinity 2. Now, you probably don't know what a Reaper kit is or a Trinity 2 kit, but you can go to Diablo Sports and find out, diablosport.com. But what they did, they expanded the Reaper Stage 1 kit to include the industry-leading Trinity 2 EX Platinum tuner. So the Trinity 2 is the ultimate in cab tuning and monitoring. There's no peer in the marketplace that can match the graphics and the powerful preloaded performance tuning and the limitless performance and potential of their custom tune options. The Reaper Stage 1 kits combine the most common upgrade made to any gas engine, which is a high-quality cold air intake, with a Trinity 2EX Platinum tuner. It's a potent combination that gives you cost savings over just trying to build a kit by piecing parts and pieces together or buying these kits individually. So it eliminates the guesswork when you're trying to source a tuner and the intake individually. So the Diablo Sport tested their tuning in the Trinity 2 with the included jammer intake cold air and had terrific results. You can feel the difference from Diablo Sport. You can take a test drive at diablosport.com, and while you're there, download more information for all the applications. And no, the application does not include the Trinity. The Trinity does not include the Ford Transit. But if you drive a Ford or a GM or a Jeep product like F-150, even the diesel engines, then you should be checking into these tuners because, as I said before, the manufacturers are leaving horsepower and torque on the table because they're controlled by the legal limits of EPA and what have you, and aftermarket companies are not. So that's what I want to share with you. Again, I'll invite your calls at 888-227-2546. Okay, I've wanted to share this information all morning. Gas prices, they're higher than they were last summer, same time. So the personal finance website, Wallet Hub, I don't know if you've ever heard of that company, but Wallet Hub released its report on 2018's best and worst cities to drive in. Now, how do you determine that? Well, here's what they did. To determine the most driver-friendly places in the U.S., they compared the 100 largest cities across 29 key metrics. The data set ranges from average gas prices to average hours in traffic congestion per auto computer to auto repair shops per capita. So you see there's three different key metrics there. Here are the best cities to drive in: Raleigh, North Carolina; Corpus Christi; Orlando, Florida; Greensboro, North Carolina; Plano, Texas; Winston-Salem, North Carolina; Durham, North Carolina; El Paso, Texas; Jacksonville, Florida; and Tampa, Florida. Now, the best versus worst. And here are the worst cities for driving: Chicago, Los Angeles, Newark, New Jersey, New York City, Boston, Seattle, Philadelphia, Oakland, San Francisco, and Detroit. And here's some interesting information, folks, and I'll net it out for you. Riverside, California, has the lowest average parking rate at $1.43 per 2-hour fee, which is 19.2 times lower than in Buffalo, with the highest of $27.44 for every 2 hours. And in Greensboro, North Carolina, residents spend the fewest annual hours in traffic congestion per computer, 4, which is 25.5 times fewer than in LA, where the city residents spend the most annual hours at 102 annual hours. So that's a really interesting, that information comes from Wallet Hub, which is a personal finance website. And I thought you'd be interested in that. Another interesting tidbit, and I want to reach back out to Kearney, Nebraska. So for all you folks tuned in to Kearney, Nebraska, then you're enjoying that 600-plus car show today, well, this whole week, on your annual, the annual trek to Kearney, Nebraska. We mentioned earlier about Ethan Kinney, who is the son of Paul Kinney, a dear friend of mine, and the president of the Kappa Ethanol. Ethan Kinney today will marry Amber, and so I want to be the first to congratulate Mr. and Mrs. This is before the fact. I guess, is that legal? Well, it's my show. It's legal if I'd say it is. To Ethan Kinney and to Amber Kinney, Mr. and Mrs. Ethan Kinney, there in Kearney, Nebraska. Ethan's getting married today. I'm sure that the Kinneys, Paul and his lovely wife, will be proud of their son, and I'm sure that Amber's folks will be equally as proud. And what a great couple. And this information was courtesy of their good friend, Leon Wilson. So, Leon, thank you for calling us to let us know that Ethan and Amber will be married today. Okay, your calls, 888-227-2546. I want to share with you some other information. I want to bring this home locally locally enough to the center of the automotive universe. There's a new business venture right here in Pensacola, Florida that I'm really excited about. It's the District Steakhouse, and it's in the Seville Quarter. In fact, right across the street from Seville Quarter. And it's a steakhouse with aged beef, and the facility, although it's not open yet, has a fantastic aging room. So when you go in past the bar, and I've had the tour, you go in, thanks to Buck Mitchell, you go in past the bar, and there's this one refrigerated room with a big picture window. And Fabio, the window is a little larger than yours. I'm in the studio looking into the control room. It's like 5 by 5 window, double pane, very thick, and inside that refrigerator is beef, and they're aging beef. And you can choose your own steak. You can choose your own whatever slice of beef that you like, whether it's a filet or the porterhouse or you name it, right there. So anyway, coming soon to our great Pensacola community is the District Steakhouse. Check it out online, and you'll be glad you did. I will let you know when it's open as well, with our good friends Wilmer Mitchell and all of the Mitchell clan there at Seville that's doing a great job. What else do I have for you? Well, here's what I have. I have this is interesting information. Tesla. So I got an information, a report on maintenance on Tesla, and I thought this would be really interesting. Unfortunately, I printed it on 2 pieces of paper, and it squeezed down in this very small print. But I'll just share this with you that this is a Model S90D and Model X90D maintenance record for the Tesla, and it comes out to 15 cents a mile, whereas other companies would come out to be, say, 47 cents per mile. And there's a lot of information, but it's 278, 278, 296, 300, 392,000. Yeah, 392,000 miles. 1 battery was replaced. Actually, 2 batteries were replaced in this 400,000 miles. But here's a caveat. The first battery didn't need to be replaced. There was a software upgrade that, had that software upgrade been installed, that battery would not have had to have been replaced. But it was replaced on ceremony, but nonetheless, it's included in this cost. But 400,000 miles, 2 battery packs, but in essence, really only 1 battery pack needed to be replaced. So this interesting information that you can find online, and it's a maintenance record for the Tesla Model S90D and the Model X90D. It's a very interesting 400,000 mile report. I remember when, and Fabio drives, you drive, what year is your Prius? 97?
It's a 04.
Oh, it's an 04? It looks older than an 04. I thought it was a Model T. Well, you laugh at me. Hey, go look at this car's been parked outside, obviously, all its life.
Yeah.
But at 200,000 miles, you've had to spend like $3,000 on that car in its lifetime, more or less, plus brakes and tires. Have you ever put brakes on it?
Not yet. Well, actually, yes. I just did before my trip to Arizona.
Okay. All right. So 200,000 miles. He put a set of brakes on this 04 Prius, and he's put 1 battery pack, and that speaks volumes to the electrification of the fleet. So when you think of EVs, you think so. Now yours is of course, a gas-powered vehicle. What kind of gas mileage, Fabio, do you really get in your vehicle?
Anywhere from 43 to 48 miles per gallon.
So you went to, where'd you go, to Arizona?
To Mesa.
How far is that? How was a round trip? What it cost you?
Probably a little over, around 300 round trip.
300, and how many thousand miles?
It's about 17, I believe, 1,700.
1,700
there.
There.
Yeah.
So it's a 4,000 mile, 3,500 mile trip, right? Yeah. $300 for gas.
Yeah.
We should all be so lucky. Oh, speaking of gas, prices. Average price $2.86, higher than it was same time last year in every part of the country. Average price in California $3.37, which is actually down from last week, but higher than every place in the country. Okay, your calls. I see we have calls coming in. When I come back from this break, I'm going to get on the horn, take your calls, answer your car questions, have some car fun at 888 Car Clinic. Don't touch that dial.
Your car and your life have a lot of moving parts, and your car's battery is what keeps it all going. Here's something to keep in mind. While all batteries may look the same on the outside, it's what's inside that matters. So be sure to choose a battery with power frame technology inside. It's stronger, more durable, and keeps you going longer. That means you can count on a battery with power frame to be there start after start. Here's another reason to feel good about choosing a battery with power frame inside. It's manufactured using the latest sustainable processes. You're moving fast, and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. So the next time you need to replace your car's battery, make sure you choose one with power frame technology inside. Look for power frame on the outside and know there's true strength on the inside.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease. And she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
Good morning, Car Clinic listeners nationwide. It's that time of year again. I've been talking with you about your automobiles for over 26 years now, and I've been servicing vehicles here in my own automotive service shop for 46 years. We've won Best Automotive Service Shop, Best Oil Change, and Best Reputation in Automotive Service, and I'd be honored if you vote for my service shop again this year for Best of the Coast. Go to inweekly.net, look for Best of the Coast voting, click Services, scroll all the way to the bottom, then key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Best Oil Change. 4 simple steps. inweekly.net, Services, scroll to the bottom, key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Best Oil Change. One more time, inweekly.net, Services, scroll to the bottom, key in Bobby Likis for Best Automotive Service Shop and Best Oil Change. I appreciate your vote of confidence.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. 888-227-2546. Go to Nebraska and take a call from Jim. Jim, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. How are you doing this morning?
Just fine. I'm on my way to cruise night in Kearney.
Oh,
See
you
the
dog!
show and shine.
You dog! Well, think of me when you get there. And by the way, as it is with a lot of car shows and a lot of outside events, when you get there, load up the biggest hot dog that you can with everything you can pile on top of it, and then enjoy that. And just don't tell me what happens afterwards.
You were talking to your engineer there, Fabio.
Yes.
And you said that it cost him $3,000 to replace the battery pack in his Prius. And I was wondering, how much does it cost to replace a battery pack in a Tesla?
That's good. Actually, what I said was that at 200,000 miles, he had spent about $3,000 on the car, and the battery. I think the battery you spent was $2,600, if I remember. Is that correct?
I think altogether it was about 26 because I got the auxiliary battery changed as well.
Okay, so you not only had the battery, the main battery, you had the car's battery replaced.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's okay. So $2,500. So I rounded it up to $3,000, and Jim. So let's say when that first car first came out in '97, Prius, those batteries were like $4,200 to $4,600, and immediately, you know, with my history and my auto repair, I said, oh my gosh, if every car that gets 100,000 miles has to have a $3,000 engine, which, you know, the battery to replace, that ain't going to work. Well, lo and behold, that was not the case at all. And then fast forward, you don't have to buy new batteries because you can buy remanufactured batteries that are supplied by, and I know a few suppliers that provide those. I think Dorman, Dorman's a great aftermarket company. We buy a lot of parts from Dorman. They supply a plug and play where you don't have to program the battery. And although no one that drives a Prius should replace his or her own battery, that's a very sophisticated. You have to take the whole car apart to get it. But getting back to your question, I have a sheet here, and I'm looking for a battery replacement. Let's see, tire. So, folks, bear with us just a minute because this is interesting. Well, this was a 12-volt battery replacement. That was $141. Replaced brakes. That was a Goodwill. At 225,000 miles, Tesla replaced the brakes. High voltage battery replacement at 324,000 miles. Yeah, warranty, 0. That was under. So, and I'm reading fine print here. Let's see. Let me go down. High voltage, because there were 2 on there, as I remember. High voltage battery. At 126,000 miles, the high voltage battery was replaced. I'm sorry, at 194,000 under warranty. Again, the high voltage battery was replaced at 324. So he had one at 194 and another one at 324. But as I was reading the information yesterday in prep for the show today, I read where the first battery really should not have had to been replaced had the upgraded software because of the way. See, you don't charge a battery 100% in a Tesla or EV. There, you limit the charge because you only charge them 100% before you're going to go on a trip. You keep them in the 70s to 80s, and that's a general term because each manufacturer. So I don't know what they cost, but I will tell you some interesting cost here. That's an aside from that, Jim, that is interesting. Replace the right rear door handle. Customer paid 230,000 miles, $982.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Replace. Now, here's another one. Front left door handle at $278,000, $221. Let me go down here. Air conditioner repaired at $290,000 for $1,300. Let's see. I'm skipping down. Replaced driver's seat base assembly at 378,000 miles, and it cost the customer $1,364. But there's a lot of goodwill on this report. There's a lot of goodwill replacement, and there's also a lot of customer pay, and it breaks it down. I think it's very open for Tesla to put this out. Here was a dash panel replacement, Goodwill at 290,000 miles. And I can tell you, there were some Toyotas that had soft tissue dashes that the Florida sun and humidity disintegrated, and you could look at the dash in some of these Toyotas. In fact, Toyota extended the warranty to 100,000 miles. You could look at the dash, and then if you leaned on the dash, like if you were leaning up to maybe pull a seatbelt up, your fingerprint would be left in the dash. And if your fingernail got on it, you couldn't. I mean, it was really so soft. Whatever they used, you know, whoever supplied them is like that. I would be analogous to the the Takata airbag, whoever supplied Toyota with those dashes, those padded dashes, that material just didn't hold up. But the same thing can be true for the touch buttons in my car. It's a 13 car, and they put for tactic, they put that clear, soft touch on a, like some toothbrushes, you've got the grips, they got a soft touch. Well, they put that on the buttons of my car, and now those buttons are sticky because the Florida humidity and sun is deteriorating those buttons and the exterior, not the buttons themselves, but the exterior. So I'll bet you the newer cars just are hard plastic. But anyway, interesting question. Maybe somebody else out there will know what a Tesla battery costs. Hey, Jim, I'll let you get on to your Carney event. And if you should run into the newlyweds, you tell them we talked about them on the air, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Okay, we're going to go now from Kearney to Texas, from Nebraska to Texas, and talk with Kevin. Kevin, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Well, how are you doing, Bobby?
I'm just great. I really am. Little voice, little throat thing, but hey, that's not no complaints there. How about yourself?
Well, Bobby, young man, that comes with age.
Hey, thanks a lot. I love you too.
Well, after 2 open heart surgeries, what can I say?
Oh, well,
you told me to call you after 6 months,
okay,
and give you a report on. I told you my son had a '98 Escort ZX2 that was my mother-in-law's before she died. And,
yes, sir.
He ended up burning up the motor. I mean, he galled number 1 and number 4 pistons. I found a wrecking yard motor.
Right.
$600. Both had 53,000 miles on it, and I will tell you one thing. That is one of the fastest stock cars I have driven in a while.
Don't you love
it? Oh, yeah, except for I'm sure he's going to get arrested or something, and I'm going to have to go get the car. But anyway, I did timing belt on it like we discussed. I went ahead and did the water pump, replaced all the hoses, the heater hose at the back, which is a molded hose you can only get from Ford. It's got new brakes, new tires. I spent $3,000 total, and I actually had to pay $900 in labor because there's some things I physically couldn't do.
Sure, right.
And new clutch, pressure plate, throw-out bearings, 5-speed, and a little car. And I told you, I did not put a fuel pump in it. After sitting 5 years, but I did have to put a computer in it. So people, if you've got a car sitting, crack a window, please, because the Texas heat took the computer out, shattered the windshield, and took the horn switch out and melted it inside the airbag. I had to put an airbag on
I'm not surprised. I am not. It's amazing to me, and a lot of people use those shields on the windshield. I park my car, and I'm fortunate that I can park my car inside my shop. On some occasions, I will leave my car out front, and every time that I do, when I go out to get in the car for lunch or to go home at night, I dog on myself because I know better. I should never leave that car because it has leather interior, and leather doesn't hold up in a car as well as like Mercedes-Benz MB Tex or vinyl. Leather is really beautiful. It's just not very durable. I mean, from a standpoint of looking new,
And it smells good, too.
It does. Now, Kevin, and folks, here's the point. Kevin's had and has a '98 Ford Escort, had a blown engine. It was blistered and overheated. So Kevin bought a used engine, for $600, and spent a total of $3,000 replacing all of the supporting items of that engine. And that's what's important to remember, the supporting item. Now, what you did, in essence, was you bought your own car back. You spent $3,000. Yeah, you did. And so
it was a sentimental thing.
Sure.
His grandmother left him that car when she died.
Right.
And the only thing I told him, I said, "Now, son, the gas gauge lies." I said, "Don't let it go below half a tank." He calls me about a month and a half, like, "Well, it just ain't running good. It's running bad." I said, "Well, how much gas in it?" "I'll put $10 worth in." I said, "Son, I told you the gas gauge lies."
Hey, you're like a lot of.
It full,
you're like a lot of dads. You're still you know, I want to ask you how old your son is, but, you know, at one time.
He's 29. I'll tell you that right now. He ought to know better.
He's got to step up to the plate. And, you know, you got to help him. The next time you can help him.
Well, I wanted to call and let you know that. And
okay.
we finally, when we actually checked the timing on it before we put the timing belt on it.
Right.
That motor was retarded. 2 teeth on the intake, 1 tooth on the exhaust. So we got everything in time. So it takes a special tool.
Yeah, it does.
To get it in time. And it will bark the tires in 5th gear at 80 miles an hour.
Oh, wow. Well, that's too fast for me.
Anyway, he's driving it every day.
Well, hey, Kevin,
Tell the dads in the world there is hope on cars that are sitting.
I thought you were going to say there's hope for 29-year-old son.
Well, I don't know about that yet. I'm still the jury's still out on that one, Bobby.
Okay. Oh, I'm sure he's a good boy. Hey, Kevin, thank you so much. Where do you live in Texas?
Bullard, Texas. I'm about 15 miles south of Tyler, Texas,
cool.
Which is 90 miles east of Dallas.
Well, thanks for calling, and thanks for getting back in 6 months, and congratulations. I'm really proud of not only the work that you did, but the investment that you made in a car that not only was sentimental, but let's face it, you got $3,000 in a known entity car with a lot of new parts. And there's one thing for sure, Kevin and folks, if you drive the new off of a car, you have to replace the new. So it doesn't matter what you drive. I don't care if it's 2 months old. You have just driven 2 months of new off that vehicle. And why is that important? So when you go to a shop, when the car gets 50,000 miles on it and you spend $2,000, you just divide that 50,000 miles by the 2,000 and you see, hey, that's a new that I got to put back on the car. Kevin, thanks so much for your update and your report. Take care and congratulations on all that you did there for your son. And his son, I didn't get his name, but he's lucky as well. So, you know, when I share information with you on these broadcasts, I like to be transparent, and I am transparent. Our company's transparent. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means what we'd like for a lot of companies to be, and a lot of governments to be. We'd like to know what goes on behind the scenes. So when you bring your car, and let me give you an example. Kevin bought an engine for $600 out of the junkyard. And he called me and said, what do you think about this? This is 6 months ago. And you heard today how well that car runs. And I'm not sure about barking the tires at 80 miles an hour, but that's all right. He means it really runs well. But we have currently a truck that belongs to a local company. And the truck was driven until the engine locked up. So we're replacing the engine. And part of the estimate that we put together was not only the engine, it was for hoses and belts and water pump and complete fluid exchange for all of the running gear. Now here's a vehicle that doesn't even run, but we're going to service, once we get the remanufactured engine in it, we're going to service the transmission, of course the cooling system, the radiator, the differential, the transfer case. So we're going to not only just make the engine whole, but we're going to make sure that the supporting mechanical components are not new, of course, but healthy enough to support the investment in the new engine. So when you think about a repair and you say, what does a repair cost? In specificity, repairs don't cost as much as you think they do. It is the general terms of and related components that need to be addressed and or replaced along with the specific repair is where the money is spent. How much is a water pump? I don't know, $200, $300, $500. How much is the bill? $700. Well, what's the difference? Well, there are belts and hoses. You don't put the same hoses back on. You don't put the same thermostat back in. You don't put the same coolant back in. So there are things that you should know. And so my closing statements to you today, communicate with your local service provider. Ask questions. Why does it cost this much? And what are you going to be doing when I spend this much? And what kind of guarantee do you have? How long have you been in business? All those questions that you would ask your doctor. Not about the cost because you got insurance, but certainly about the quality and how long to practice. So with that, I will leave you for today. I thank you so much for joining us. Remember, every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time, Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I'm Bobby Likis. Thank you for tuning in today. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Berryman's B12 Chem Tool features HEST, or High Energy Solvent Technology. Helps maximize one-tank cleanup of intake valves, fuel injectors, and combustion chambers. But don't take our word for it. Gary's Mercury Sable was just running awful and throwing trouble codes. A local technician said it might cost as much as $600. So first, Gary tried Berryman B12 Chem Tool Fuel Additive, and now it runs like new with no trouble codes. Learn more about Berryman products and their HEST technology at berrymanproducts.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Fortress Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take.